became a critical infrastructure. What used to be 10, 15, 20 years ago, water, gas, electricity, today internet is critical infrastructure. No internet, no life. Having said that, this is opening a lot of different opportunities for what we call the bad guys and bring us to what we call the cyber world, the cyber problem, the information security challenges that we all facing, no matter whether we are just a simple household, a small business, or a big enterprise. And starting with this, I'd like to introduce our amazing people on this panel today that will help everybody to understand and how to face the challenges, ask questions. It is a very interactive panel. We're not here under a formal agenda. This is an interactive stuff that we can get questions from the audience, whether from Facebook or here online on Zoom. And we'll be happy to answer all in your concerns, and we'll share all the information from our side as well. So I'd like to ask my panel members to introduce themselves in a very short and quick background and overview. And I'll start with you, Ruvi.
All right. Hey, thank you. Thanks everyone for joining. Hope, like I mentioned, everybody's safe at home and doing okay under the circumstances. So my background, I'm the CEO and co-founder of Tufin. We're the leader in security policy management. So we help large organizations manage their security policy. I co-founded that company about 15 years ago, and it's grown. And in the last 3 years, I've lived in Boston. I started in Tel Aviv, and now I live in the States.
Thank you, Ruvi. Moving forward to Roy Carmel.
Hi, everybody. My name is Roy Carmel. I'm the Chief Product and Strategy for CyberReason. CyberReason is a company founded in Israel and headquartered now in Boston, with a presence around the globe. We protect enterprises all the way from protecting the endpoints to using security analytics to protect against advanced threats. My previous background includes several roles of Chief Product and Strategy and CMO roles, both in small startups as well as in large enterprises like HP.
Thank you, Roy. And I'll introduce myself. My name is Idan Idri, and I'm the CEO of Trustify, a company that specializes in email and security form, anywhere from encryption and a lot of related security email environment. My background is I was 9 years in the Israeli military on the intelligence forces, retired as a captain, and after that did some government jobs when it comes to intelligence and cybersecurity. Then I joined into my first startup, which developed cybersecurity for critical infrastructure here in the United States. Successfully exit this startup, and then I jumped into Trustify, opened the second one, which we're doing email encryption, and hopefully that's going to be the second successful company. I would like to start by asking my panel members to keep the conversation as less technical as possible and to talk on language that everybody at home can understand what we're talking, because we all know every 3 words in English means something in technology. So we don't want to make it too complicated. And I'll start asking my panel members, and you can answer one. I'm curious to know what's making you, this time with the Corona time, not sleeping at night. I'd like you to share your thoughts about this one. Ruvi, we'll start with you.
All right. So in my role, CEO of a company of about 600 people, first of all, it's my family, right? But thankfully my family's doing okay. We're hunkering down, so that's on my mind a lot. But now that we're safe at home, how do I keep my employees safe? And how do I keep my business going forward and thriving? What does this mean for the world? So, are we going to be this way for 3 months or 6 months or 9
with COVID-19 and also specifically around cyber. I think that in general, it's pretty obvious that we're all taking care of families and the generations that are more at risk. I'm actually focused more and more on what is the peripheral damage of COVID-19, whether it's the workforce and the unemployment, or medical cases which are non-corona cases but are impacted because of the situation. So that's one area I would say of concern that really interests me and gets me reading on that quite a bit. Specifically on cyber, I think in times of crisis like this, we need to always think about what do the hackers and the malicious actors are actually doing, and how are they leveraging this situation to be favorable for their activity, for their malicious activity. And one of the things that's becoming clear is that on one end there is a crisis that malicious actors can take advantage of, and we can drill into it a bit later of how. And on the other, there is a changing situation of remote workforce, people working from home, people working from areas which are less protected, and so the combination of those is really something to be mindful of and address.
Thank you, Roy. I'll share my thoughts. During the past 3 weeks since the corona started, in my world of email security, email encryption, we have 667% more cases than any time before on phishing, scamming, and money transactions that people don't even know exist. I think this said everything. 600% increase cases around United States only. Scams and money transaction problems that our clients facing on a day-to-day basis. So what doesn't make you sleep, what makes me not sleep at night, on one hand, personal level, Albert Einstein said, in every crisis is a great opportunity. So in the world of cyber, obviously, this is our time. This is our money time. We're getting more and more clients on a daily basis because everybody now using the internet, they need security. And this is going to grow moving forward because everybody understands that work from home is not a curse anymore. This is something which is most will happen in the future more. But what I'm more concerned is the awareness of the people, even the people that sit at home, are just sending a small email to their bank, to their realtor, or to their friends or travel agent, the copy of their passport. They're not aware of how much potential damage due to themselves by sending this email. Not sleep at night. The awareness of people that they don't understand the threats on a daily basis, and now more than ever on their information, on their life, on their kids, on their family. And I'd like the panel to help these people to understand in a very simple world how they can protect themselves. So my next questions to my panel members, I'd like you to give the top 3 recommendation. All the people that are listening to us right now, what do you recommend them to do? Top 3 in their office, in their workplace, whatever it is, to secure themselves during the corona time. And then afterwards, we can obviously talk about why the corona time is bringing those kind of activity in the cyber and the hacking world. But let's start with 3 recommendations, and Roy, I'll start.
Okay, so I think that's always something that we're trying to really boil it down to. What is the fundamental, simple thing to focus on? So some of it has nothing to do with coronavirus. I think the number one thing always to remember is we have multiple vendors out there working for us. The operating system vendors like Microsoft and others, the application vendors. And what they're doing is they're constantly patching and understanding what their vulnerabilities are and fixing them and patching. We need to be very, very active at making sure that our systems are up to date. What that means is that if there's a security update to your phone or to your operating system, don't wait. Update and make sure you're up to date with the security patches. Usually that by itself takes care of 80-90% of the threats that you're vulnerable to. It's a simple thing, and you can take actions very easily. The second thing is really related to the virus, the crisis itself, the coronavirus itself. And for that, we need to maybe understand the psychology of a hacker and really the psychology of us as targets. We tend to make more mistakes in times of crisis. We are in dire need of information, and we tend to check less choices or options that we have to gain this information when we're in crisis mode. We're also very impulsive in how we react to the crisis. And so if we get an email that says there is a coronavirus alert in your neighborhood right now, we're much more likely to press on that link right now than in any other time. And so the hackers and the malicious actors know that. They use this in sort of social engineering during the phishing emails or phishing attacks that they do. And so when you get information pushed to you related to the coronavirus crisis, be very careful to know where it's coming from, and get your information mostly by you actively going to the sources that you want to get it from, and not be reactive to something that gets pushed to you. Okay, and that's true always, but especially in times of crisis for messages that associate themselves with that crisis. That's the second thing. The third thing I would say is a generic mindset that we always push out of Cybereason, which is a post-breach mindset. We can be as protective as possible. We can patch, we can put all the firewalls and the antiviruses in the world in our systems. A strong enough actor will be able to penetrate them and actually get to their target. And so we need to live in a mindset of a post-breach mindset, which basically means if somebody really wants to get to your phone with enough resources and time, they'll get to your phone. And so don't assume that your phone is safe just because you haven't seen anything weird. Don't put your camera in places where it shouldn't be. Don't put your microphones in places where they shouldn't be. Don't assume your files are safe just because you haven't gotten an alert. And just live with that mindset, and that will immediately reduce the amount of risk that you have to be breached.
Thank you, Roy. Uvi?
All right, so I completely agree with Roy, and I'm going to add 3 more. So I think one thing that is typically underestimated by people is that they use 1 or 2 or 3 passwords for everything. And so I think it relates to Roy's last point. So you should assume you're going to get hacked. Everybody is going to get hacked at some point. Maybe not you, but an account that you're using is going to get hacked. Maybe you're on, I don't know, you're using Grubhub. Grubhub will get hacked, and they have your email and your password, okay? And so if you use that password somewhere else, these people will try to use your email and password everywhere, and they're going to find somewhere else. So you need to use different passwords for every single service, and I mean every single service, really. And so you need to use a password manager like LastPass or 1Password. Just Google password manager, and they're very easy to use. And literally every time I sign up for a new service, I create a brand new, very strong password. So think about a combination of, uppercase, lowercase numbers and weird characters. And every password is unique, and I don't have to remember them. They're all kept in this password manager. Critical, all right? Don't reuse the passwords, and use a very strong password for something like Gmail, because Gmail at the end of the day, or whatever you're using as your primary email, is kind of the backup for everything. And so you need a strong password for that, and different passwords for everything, and the password manager is going to help you. The second thing that has to do with kind of authentication is to use what's called two-factor authentication. So two-factor authentication, just to simplify in non-technical terms, it's not just the password, it's something that, it's not just what you know, it's something about who you are. So two-factor in this case would be the password plus a text message to my phone. So in my bank account in Bank of America, it texts me. Somebody, it's not just the password, it texts me as well. And those run out, and you can use that. And there's even better ones, actually SMS texts can be hacked as well. So some of them, like Amazon and Google, have so they have password generators, and they generate these passcodes all the time. They're much safer than texts. So if you can use an authenticator, that's better than text. But please use two-factor authentication on all of your critical services, and Gmail is critical, right? And everywhere you can, bank accounts are critical. Bank accounts, Gmail, have to do two-factor authentication. Everything else you consider critical, two-factor authentication, please. The third thing is also, to Roy's point, you should assume you were breached. One of the ways that hackers get you is ransomware, right? So they somehow get into your machine, you clicked on something, you got infected, and they lock everything and they say, okay, you will not get your files. I've encrypted your files. You need to pay me, I don't know, 2,000 Bitcoin or whatever to get the key to unlock it. And so you won't be able to protect against it. But what you can do is at least save your files. So have backup software. There's fairly easy ways to do that. You can use Google Drive, you can use iCloud, all sorts of other services, not super expensive. Backup all of the files that are important to you, all of your photos, all the things that you care about. Assume everything on your machine is going to be gone. Okay? And it's maybe 20 or 30 bucks a month, and it'll be a lifesaver. So those are my 3 tips.
Thank you to my panel members. I have a lot to add. The only thing I will add is effort doesn't work with security. Having said that, a lot of you guys running on Chrome or you log into your bank account and you log into your Facebook, and guess what? There's a pop-up that asking you, would you like me to save your password and username for the next time? All you have to do is click sign in, and then you don't have to put your password again. There's 2 problems with this feature. It's very comfortable. The problem is it helps you to forget your passwords. And then you don't remember your password once you really need to sign in from a different computer that doesn't save your username and password. The second problem is this is the most vulnerable point of any surfer right now, whether it's Firefox or Chrome, to get all your information in one shot. Because what you basically do, you put all your eggs in one basket. If I'm using Chrome and I'm letting him save all my username and password all the time, and then all I have to do is just to log in, then I'm giving all this information into one basket. If this basket, as Ruvi said, I'm not going to be hacked, but if Chrome database will be hacked, they're going to have all my information. So I kindly recommend anybody, especially in this time, most of the phishing attack that we are handling at the moment with my world is actually targeting exactly this point. The password and the username of people, whether it's their Gmail, whether it's their bank account, or anything that they can put their hands on, because that's the way to get information and you from a different angle. So comfort doesn't work with security, and unfortunately, all of you needs to, whoever use it, needs to stop using it and actually password and username every time you want to sign in. It's helping you to remember your passwords in one hand, and it's preventing to put all your eggs in one basket. I'm gonna take a few seconds just to read the questions that we have from the audience, and then I'll ask my panel member to help me answer those questions. So we have a question from Moran. How do we check our phone for any virus? Roy, maybe this is more for you.
Yeah, there's actually tools out there that you can download as sort of antivirus or protective tools for your mobile devices. Some are for small organizations or large organizations, and some are for consumers. We at Cybereason are actually protecting mobile devices for large and medium organizations, and we do that together with the rest of the what we call endpoints, the computers of that enterprises. And we look at it as just yet another computer in the enterprise. So if the phone of an employee is hacked, it's just like their laptop hacked, exactly the same. But you could actually look for antivirus or cyber protection on the App Store. There are multiple apps and services that you can download for consumers. Some of them are free, and some of them are for a fee. And they're all, they're all they're all going to make you safer. But as I said, don't assume that once you protect yourself, it's 100% protected. You are much more protected, but make sure that you assume that the very, very sensitive thing that you want to keep is not exposed.
Thank you, Roy. Ruby, would you like to add?
No, I think that's a great answer. And what Roy said before, just keep updating all the time. For instance, if you have iPhone, make sure you update all the time because Apple is really good actually at security. If it's up to date, it should be pretty good. But look, if a state actor is trying to hack your phone, they're going to hack your phone. Okay, you might be able to block like a regular hacker, like a script kiddie, but the most important thing is, like Roy said, update all the time to the latest patches.
Okay, I will add. So I am just typing in software. I just sent it in. It's called Bitdefender. It's a free software as well, but there is subscription if you want to take the premium package with more features. It's a great application that protect your phone and your computer. I strongly recommend it. If you buy the premium for your organization, they're doing an amazing job. On your phone, the Bitdefender is actually protecting you from getting hacked in one hand, and in the other hand, give you the capability to open VPNs, whether you want to perform a call over data with a network, kind of a secure environment that they encrypt, and it gives you a lot of benefits to use this software. This is one of my recommendation to use. In regards to phone hacking, which is something that is interesting a lot of people that are asking me, how my phone can be hacked. I will join completely to Roy and Ruvian and stop from hacker to go into your phone if he wants to, period. Whoever tells you but buy my software, you'll never be hacked, simply lie to you, because all you do is just to create obstacles. You put more, like you do in your house, you put camera, you put fence, you put lock on the door, you put sensors, you just create obstacles that if the hacker or if the robber is coming in, is going to have to pass all these obstacles while you're really saving your most valuable information somewhere else. It's the same goes for cybersecurity. So assume that you're going to be hacked and make sure your information that you have on your phone is not that valuable if somebody puts their hand on your phone. But another thing I want to share with everyone, and that's a research we just recently finished when we're doing on the email side, all the people that use iPhone, Apple, they iCloud, where automatically by default, Apple is accessing your phone and give you a full authorization to upload your information to their cloud. Anywhere from pictures, text messaging, WhatsApp backup, Snapchat, all your information is automatically by default when you connect cloud is open to synchronize with their cloud. And there is one small feature in this cloud that it's called iCloud backup. If this feature is on, ON, means you activate it, your phone will be synchronized every 24 hours with Apple. Where is the problem? The vulnerability it's creating is most of the spy software that sits on an iCloud of a person needs this feature to be on and activate in order to get this information from the user. Again, if I want to spy a phone, all I need is that this phone, I will get the username and password for the iCloud, but the iCloud backup will remain open active. If this is open, the spy software will scan all your information and it's very easy to take it out. My recommendation when we're talking about phone, turn this feature off. You don't need an automatically iCloud backup. When you want to back up your phone, just do it once a week. Put it in your calendar like you go or like you have a conference call. One time a week, just make this iCloud backup and turn it off again. Because this is a big, big door for spy and all that's, all the software they're running right now in the industry of spying and getting the information from users. We have another question here. If it's not Chrome, it's Central, it's LastPass safe. It's a central database. So it's not a question. It's a, okay, what antivirus for computer would you recommend? So I think that all the software that Boy and Rustin and what I wrote, the Bitdefender, covering as well, desktops. So it's doing more or less the same job. And I would like to move to my third question for my panel members, which is more involved of why right now, why when there is a crisis that and we see a lot of cyber attack, I'm trying to get the information, Roy and Ruvi. Why do you think that hackers are using right now the crisis time? And it's not only that they use it. They use it before also in elections. Why do we think hackers are doing it at this time and we all the attacks? We'll start with you.
I'm sorry, you said Ruby?
Roy.
Right. Okay. Sorry. My connection is not great. Okay. So I think it connects a little bit to what I was explaining before, and it's a little bit philosophical, right? We are creatures that react within a context, right? We have a context to which we react. If we're on a beach and we're relaxed, we act differently than if a robber chases us. Right, and so our minds are reacting differently according to the situation around us. And so when we're in a crisis, whether it's COVID or even in a very active situation like elections or high stress situation, we will make decisions that are driven by the context of this context or the context of this situation. And if we take elections, you mentioned elections, we're actually researching quite a lot and working with law enforcement and agencies specifically on protecting elections. It's amazing to see how malicious actors, state actors are leveraging the behavior of election day to actually manipulate the behavior of individuals. Now, we all know about social networks and the changing the position and opinions of people, but there are much simpler things that can influence elections, right? If you understand the regions of the two parties, and you understand which regions will actually make or break the elections, the amount of people that you need to manipulate is usually pretty small, and if you can target those people and just mobilize them or immobilize them during the day of the elections, you can influence the elections, right? So think about a state actor that all they need to do is shut down the public transportation for a specific region that is critical for one side of the elections. Just by immobilizing a few thousand people, they can dramatically impact the situation. They can also combine fear and whatever situation exists. So if we take coronavirus and elections, and in some cases they do coincide, I hope not in Israel very soon, but we'll see. And so what happens there, right? You could actually drive corona-related fear during day of elections, but target it to specific mobile devices of specific people in regions and immobilize them from going to the elections during that day. And the chances that we will react to this type of information are very, very high. Right? Compared to just a regular everyday where we go to work and we see a random piece of information, we will check that twice before we actually react to it. And so I think that's one of the launch pads for malicious actors to take, is really understand what drives us to action or immobilizes us, and leverage that as part of how they engineer the situation.
All right, so Roy, I agree 100%. And what I'll add about a crisis like COVID, if you think about the current situation, everybody's sitting at home. You have a bunch of hackers who, if they were hacking before, they're even more bored and unemployed now than they've ever been in the past. That's one thing. And the other thing is that, so they have tons of time on their hand, more time than before. You have more people becoming unemployed that maybe can hack. They weren't going to hack because they were busy, but now they were fired. Maybe they're pissed at people and they're ready to do something. The other part is that you have everybody sitting at home using services, internet services a lot more, and especially people that are vulnerable. And unfortunately, people that are older are vulnerable not just to corona, but also from a security perspective. So people that are just generalizing, a lot of people that are older are not as technically savvy, are not using the internet in sophisticated ways. Suddenly, it's the only way they can communicate with their family. And so they're all on the internet exploring, using services for the first time. They're very anxious. They're reading every piece of news they get. So they're getting emails talking about a vaccine, and here's the latest thing to do. Here's how to claim unemployment, and people click on stuff. And we already heard that the number of attacks is dramatically increased because one, hackers have more time on their hand, and the attack surface, which is what we call insecurity. There's so many more vulnerable people on the internet today that are willing to click on stuff than before. That it's like a field day for hackers, and they don't, the fact that there's
I think we lost Ruby.
hopefully you can
Ruby,
hear me. Am I back?
we hear you.
Sorry about that. So did you guys hear what I said up to that point?
Yeah, go ahead, continue.
Yeah, so that was my main point. Everybody's on the internet. You got vulnerable people. You got hackers that are bored. State actors, they don't care. It's a great time to infiltrate deeper. So nothing has changed except you have a lot more vulnerable people on the internet, and they're using it a lot more than before.
Hey, Ruby. And you know what? Maybe to emphasize, I'd like to ask the audience, and you can reply on the group. Very simple question. How many of you, before the coronavirus, used to call the bank or call a vendor of services, any type of services, or pay over phone bills? And now, because of the COVID situation, where they force you to transfer online because the waiting line is horrible, you're waiting hours of hours to reach a banker or paying your tax, and now you're doing it online. I'd like to ask the audience here, how many of you switch working over the phone to working online since the coronavirus started? Please reply on the group chat, yes or no, and then we will read together while I'm jumping into the next topic. Um, yeah, you see, we have already a reaction from Brent. Yes, much more online for banking, for ages. No, always working online, certified women. Yeah, we a lot of answers. Yes, yes. So kind of if I'm thinking it right now, you see that a lot of people switch for online. And my answer for my questions is the following. The sentence of Einstein that crisis lies in opportunity works because that you work over the phone and now switch for online. These are the most vulnerable people because they have no clue what is online working means. When they're switching to working online, they don't understand the password, the sign-in issues, what is allowed, what is not allowed. How do I know if the email I received is really the email from my banker and not a scam? And all of those questions, it actually in the crisis time, that's the opportunity for the hackers. One of the reasons we see a lot of phishing attack at the moment and a lot of different attack when it comes to the cyber world. But that's one of the reasons we see that, and that's what increased the whole situation. Um, I'd like to open another question, which is more on my comfort zone working with the email platform. The email became a communication today, I think, more than ever, because waiting on, as we said, waiting on the line, on the phone, we're doing the chat online vendor. So the email became a serious way of communicating. And my question to the panel members, and help me out here, would you consider email as another form of ID? Roy, I'll let you start again.
All right. So identity access and overall identity is an interesting topic. I think again today we are authenticating ourselves all the way from passwords to the ones that use Google or Facebook for authentication. In order to authenticate in a credible way, there needs to be a trusted source, right? That can authenticate you. And so I think email is sort of an umbrella word for the platform that hosts that email, whether it's Gmail or it's Yahoo or Microsoft or whatever, whoever you use. And I think at the end of the day, we need to trust an organization and not a type of technology. And so email can be a form of authorization if done by the organization that we trust. We all decided, the ones that use the authentication of Facebook or Google to log into other accounts, decided we trust this organization, right? We don't just trust the technology, we trust the organization. We trust their credibility, their investment in security, and therefore we allow them to authenticate us. And the same would go for email. I think if we trust an organization that can actually create the proper authentication over email, then we need to figure out if that's a credible source. But right now, I don't see the technology available, and so I wouldn't do it at this point in time. But I would look at it very carefully based on the vendor that offers it.
So I agree with Roy 100%. I think email. So if you get an email from somebody claiming something, that's always suspect because these things can be spoofed. It's very hard for somebody who's not a professional to look at an email and say that's really the person that I thought it was, or it's not. Like maybe Don can do it, or Roy, but like most people can't do it. And but on the other hand, yes, like if I'm logged into the Google platform and I can use all sorts of services, I agree 100% with Roy that yeah, like if you can't trust Google for security, you probably can't trust anybody. They're probably one of the most security conscious organizations out there. So I would say Google, Microsoft, even though they have a bad reputation, they've become much better at security. They take it really seriously. So if you have a Microsoft email or Google email, that's pretty safe unless you gave your password away. You have a simple password. But just getting an email from someone, I don't think you can trust that.
Ruvi, you just opened a debate here, which I like because it's going to make it more interesting for everyone. Here's my 2 cents in regards to Gmail. They are safe. I want to make something clear to everyone who uses Gmail. How many of you ever opened the disclosure before you got mail for free? When you open the mailbox, it's the disclosure that you need to mark that you read it and confirm. How many of you have ever really read all the lines there before they open their Gmail? I can assure you from people there, probably zero. And the reason I'm saying, you hear me? See, connection unstable. Okay. The reason I say that is, yes, Google is safe. Ruby, I agree with you. Secured. But let's not forget one thing. The existence of Google is based on our information. They have a full authorization to scan every email that we are sending via their services, every picture, every PDF files, every documentation, every location-based services. You give them a full authorization by clicking agree to their terms and conditions. So yes, Gmail are secure, definitely. They're doing a good job when it comes to security, but when it comes to privacy, guess what? We have zero privacy using their services. As long as we know that and we are okay with that, that's fine. But I want to make sure everyone understand it. This is why this is their base income of. So Ruby, if you want to debate on it, I'm all in.
Yeah,
But
I agree. I mean, I think in the modern world, our privacy is really being encroached. And so, yeah, you have with Google and Apple, if you're using all these services, if you really like live online and you're using, Google, Microsoft, and others, absolutely. If you think that stuff is private, it's not, and you should assume the NSA can reach all of your data. And I think even in this time of Corona, what we're hearing about, it's interesting. You hear governors and people in the federal government talk about contact tracing. How are they going to do contact tracing, right? So Google is going to collaborate with Apple and local governments, and they're going to figure out who's who's standing next to whom, right? I think we've unmuted some of the people, so maybe we have some background noise. Uh,
Good music.
right. So great, thank you. So I think our privacy in this world is pretty much gone. In everything that is, if you want to stay private, you gotta, you should use cash and, get off the grid. You got a cell phone, you got a credit card, you're using Google, Microsoft, it's out the door, and most people don't know. It's a little bit like the Matrix. Like you don't see like it's a facade, but in reality, Big Brother knows everything. So yes, they know everything about us. I think with contact tracing, it's going to get a lot worse. I think the NSA uh, will use it for sure. They're going to use these powers, and they will know a lot more about you. And yeah, it's kind of scary, but that's the reality of the modern world today.
Guys, I think we have a mixed audience here, both cybersecurity people as well as people outside of the domain. So I think it's extremely important to sort of also take a step back for a second and look at it in a very, very simple manner, and get a lot of sort of just a healthy look at this without any cyber knowledge or cyber baseline knowledge. And at the end of the day, I think the mundane people will not be able to decide whether this authentication is safer than that authentication. I think what's important is to go back to basics and common sense, right? You said, Idan, does anybody read the terms and conditions? When I help my parents with any service that they need to register to or anything that they do, the first thing that people who are not very savvy with technology they do is they just click next, right? They don't read, they click next. Just stop, read. If it makes sense, read it. If it doesn't make sense, if it's 30 pages long, it doesn't matter if you'll read it. You probably won't get a lot out of it. And go back to common sense. Don't put sensitive information where it shouldn't be. Choose the right passwords and don't put them out there in a dangerous place. And just use common sense and slow down. When you slow down, right, and you think about common sense, you already are 10 times safer than usual. And so I think it's important to also message this to non-security people. You don't need to be a cybersecurity expert to be safer. If you patch yourself, if you slow down, you read the messages that are popped up to you, and you act with common sense, so you don't click on anything that gets pushed, you'll be a lot safer.
Hey guys, can I ask a question?
Yes, please.
First of all, don't worry, I did not Zoom bomb your meeting. Dandy was nice enough to allow me to speak. It might be too heavy for 5 o'clock on a Friday, but you guys obviously are focusing on corporate America. That's what the big money is, right? That's where the most biggest budgets to fund projects that your companies are going after. But what do you think about the majority of the population that doesn't have the budget, do not have an IT manager that can educate them about what to do or not to do? They're not on this Zoom session, so they cannot benefit from the wisdom of all of you. But they're sitting there vulnerable, arguably are taken advantage of by people who understand that my 80-year-old mom is more likely to believe to a phishing attempt than I am. who is responsible to protect those people? Firstly, do you think it's a government responsibility? Do you think your companies should have an allocation of some budget for social responsible projects that would protect people that cannot afford to pay?
So I'll start. I think it's the governors that need to do it, and it's not my fault at all. No, I'm kidding. Politics aside, I think we covered it shortly before. So there's a few tips that we went through on how people can protect themselves. So we spoke about, and just to reiterate some of the things that were said, use a different password for every service, and use a password tool like LastPass or 1Password. Use two-factor authentication. Assume you will be hacked, right? So keep, make sure that you're automating the updates to your phone and automating the updates to your Mac or your Windows machine. Back up everything automatically so that if you get ransomed, right, if somebody locks up all your files, you can get access to it. So I would say, for those of you that just joined late, it's not that complicated. I mean, we went through these things, but literally, if you Google top 10 tips on how to secure myself, you will probably hear what we just went through. So it's not that complicated. But I don't think it's, I don't think the government is going to come in with recommendations on things. People need to figure it out. People need to help each other. If you're savvy, help your uncle, your grandparents, and your friends that are not technically savvy.
But that's my point. Again, I'm talking about people who could not understand even what you said. I do, but people who are not able to do what you just said. And to me, isn't that the same as I don't need to defend myself from somebody trying to break into my house? I can call 911. Shouldn't the government then protect me also from people trying to hack into my computer or my bank account?
I think David.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'd like to take your question and actually split it to two, because you were contrasting it to corporate America, and I think it's interesting to answer this question both to consumers and the everyday Joe, as well as the small medium businesses, which are not corporate America, don't have the budgets to have a full security office. But they're 10, 20 people organization, 50 people organizations, and they need to be protected as well. And some of them are family businesses, as you said, with non-security savvy or non-technical savvy people running them, and I'd like to relate to them as well. For the small medium businesses, there are solutions out there that actually take the problem completely away from the organization. So an organization today can completely outsource the security protection that they need and get a commoditized, fairly priced service, fully managed, with 0 people on the ground manned by them. So if you're a family business, 10, 15, 20 people, there are multiple what's called MSSP, managed security service providers, that will supply you with the full security umbrella that you need for your business, without any need for investment from human investment coming from your small business. So that's one. On the consumer side, I tend to agree with you. I think what we're seeing is a lag between the maturity of where government and education is to really where the threat landscape today is. And so we all know about burglars and about offenders, and we get alerts if there is a sex offender in our neighborhood, right? We get alerted for that. But we don't really get the right education and the right umbrella yet from the educational system or the government. My position is that governments need to work with the vendors in the market in order to gain the capabilities and to gain the understanding and be able to accelerate the service they give to citizens. But I also think education is a big part here. And just like we educate our kids not to follow a stranger and not to pet a dog and go on with a stranger away from school, we need to educate them on online safety, and on cybersecurity safety. My two 10-year-old girls are getting online now, and they're going through this education as they get online. And I actually pose these questions to them. What happens if you get a message that tells you this? And what happens if you get an offer that tells you you can get a free iPad, right? And basically educate them as they start their online journey.
I have a question, and I know we are almost about to end our panel, but do you all remember the movie Pandemic, I think, that came out 10 years ago, that sort of was such a reality, but it was so surreal that something like this could never really happen. And this is a movie from Hollywood about the pandemic, and now we're experiencing something similar. Do you see in your wildest dreams something that could be as dangerous or something that we are not prepared or cannot comprehend that could possibly happen from a cybersecurity perspective?
Roy, my answer will probably scare them, so I'll start you.
So I think the goal here is not to scare, because the more you know, the more the more you don't want to know. Look, at the end of the day, we are living in a very, very vulnerable world, which is extremely connected, getting more and more connected, with critical infrastructure of nations connected to the internet, whether it's power or water or communication of police departments or anything related to critical infrastructure, and the ability to hack and apply damage to this critical infrastructure and bring a nation to its knees is a possibility today. Now, we need to remember that just like regular warfare, countries will think twice before creating a damage that will actually be a casus belli to start a war. We've already crossed the line of separating cyber attacks from standard traditional warfare. We've crossed that line. Nations are using cyber attacks against each other and retaliating to cyber attacks with regular warfare already. And so what that does on one end, it's pretty evident that the risk of cyber attacks is becoming higher. The tool of a cyber attack is becoming a standard tool in warfare between nations. We're in Cyber Reason dealing with that every day, and we are protecting nations as part of what we do. But it's also important to remember it's because nations have such great power of cybersecurity, just like a famous movie said, with great power comes great responsibility. And so they know that they need to be very, very careful in what steps they take. And it's not just, it's not going to just stay in the cyber realm. It will impact the full retaliation of the other nation. And so, yes, the capability is there, but just like any other warfare exists.
Thank you, Roy. Ruvi, unfortunately, we don't have enough time to get. I'd like just to summarize. First of all, Edge is a resource for you for questions that you might have. We are planning to continue to do this panels moving forward. And for David's question that they said, who can teach us and help us? It is a resource. We are here, we're giving you our opinion and our professional recommendations of how to protect yourself. And it as a resource is extremely important. And there is a network cyber chat that the IAC is doing as well. So I think it's an unbelievable resource for a lot of us in the community, and we should definitely use it. There's a lot of professionals out there that can help. Us three are here today just to give our opinion, but there's a lot of others, good and smart people that can help and support in this. But I just want to summarize all this in really three topics. Network security, secure your home. Your wife should not be your last name or your first name. It needs to be some random name. Make sure the password of your wife is not a simple one and make it a complicated one. Same as you are checking your account online, making sure there is money in your bank, change your password month. It's the same thing. Cybersecurity, all the emails you're receiving, make sure these are the real behind this email. Don't just automatically click the link. Pay attention to the wording. Pay attention to the address. Double click on the address of the email that sent you. Make sure that the address makes sense and it's not a random address and the display name looks the same of the person you normally talk to. On your phone, when you're getting a weird WhatsApp with a link, don't run it. Check. Is it all about? Your text messaging, your phone call, when you're getting, this is a social security, you've been suspicious activity, blah, blah, blah. Don't just run and believe and provide your information. Ask questions. When I'm getting scam calls asking me that I have a problem with my credit or whatever, I'm asking, can you please identify me? Tell me, how do you know? Obviously, you need this information. So you are allowed to ask and to verify and authenticate how much this is real. And the bottom line is stay safe, stay healthy, use our resources, use the recommendation. I'd like to thank Roy. Thank you very, very much for sharing us with your information and insight. Ruvi, thank you very much for us as well, your side about it. And I hope everyone will stay safe, and I probably see you next time.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
זה ביום ראשון.
שבת שלום.
המטרה היא לבדוק שנייה את האודיו, אז שכל אחת עכשיו
שבת שלום.
תגיד